The Hogsty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hello out there, Hogstine Nation. This is Alex East filling in for Sean, who is absent. Welcome to the first 2018 preseason episode of the Hogsty. And much like the Redskins, this preseason episode, we're resting about half our starters, and we got somebody filling in from the bench. Luckily, it's Rich Roger, and he's going to do his best Mo Harris impression.
Well, I think I'm on the roster bubble. I think these guys will let, because there's been some injuries on the Hogsty, they allow me to play. So hopefully I'll sneak a roster. I'll have a roster spot on the Hogsty 53.
You could do worse than being Mo Harris.
Yeah, and that, of course, is the voice of Steve Thomas.
I am here.
He's like a punter or a kicker. He plays every game, every down he's supposed to.
You have a commitment, you try to do it, man. I've done shows from a lot of different places.
Yes, you have. I think you've probably done them from, at least four states that I can think of. Yeah.
And believe me, I've often wondered, is this the day that the security people at the airport are going to wonder what a microphone on a mic stand is inside this bag?
Yeah, I've had that moment once or twice in my life, but you get used to it. Unfortunately, one thing we also were used to. Let's start with the bad news first,
news?
and that is we're used to an ACL injury. And of course, Darius Guice, the star future of this offense, looks like we won't be seeing him again till next year, guys.
I'd like to read you my note. Because I took notes. I took abbreviated. I didn't do my full note-taking thing I normally do.
Sure.
And Alex knows, I've got like pages and pages and pages in the regular season. But I did take a few notes. And I wrote, Guice, minor injury, right knee. That's what I wrote when I saw it live. That's what I wrote. And I tried to go back and watch that game again last night. I just couldn't get through it, man. I really couldn't.
I watched the highlights, and I replayed that thing a few times. You can see where it happens if you'll go back and watch just that play. Yeah. It sucks, man. After they announced it was an ACL, instantly everyone's like, we're cursed. And I don't blame people for feeling that way. I definitely feel that way at times.
Somebody's pricking a voodoo doll somewhere. I don't know if it's like Jerry Jones or maybe it's Dan Snyder. I don't know.
But let me give and I get it, curse, but let me give a glass half full approach. Okay, Darius Guice gone for the season. Everybody's like, we're cursed. We would truly be cursed if Deron Payne's injury was a season-ending one, and if Matt Ioannidis' injury was a season-ending one. So yes, the losing Guice sucks, but if as long as the defense is still intact, there's hope.
Is Deron Payne on the field yet?
No, well.
Matt Ioannidis they're saying won't play another snap in preseason.
As long as it's not a season-ending IR injury, there's hope.
Okay, well, let's talk about Guice because, it's sad, but I don't want to just whine and cry about Guice for an hour because that would be boring radio, and it would be nothing that is.
No, that's why we're starting with it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk Guice.
It was very clear that Darius Guice they were going to give him the opportunity to be the franchise back and give him the bulk of the carries. I think what we saw in his very brief 7 carries, and he was 6 for 19 in the game because the play that he got injured on actually got called back for holding call on Elijah Wellman. But what we saw is that Guice really does have significantly more burst and acceleration than these other guys we have.
And incredible vision. A lot of those 5-yard runs, you just saw the vision.
I don't think anybody this side of Chris Thompson could have done that little spin move he did on the 34-yard run. Guice, I think, even playing with the backup offensive line, showed that he probably was going to be legit. I'm not saying he would have been in the Hall of Fame, but I think he was probably going to work out as a legit franchise back. So it's a real shame he's gone. But it is what it is. And as far as Guice goes, we have to just pray that he comes back and he's himself. Because some guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes running backs don't. So we'll see. But so let's talk about, to me, going forward. Right. Because there's no sense in dwelling on it. What do we do? And so this is where I think, let's start with this. Do we ride with who we have, or do we sign a free agent?
I mean, it's a tricky question at this point. I mean, assuming Guice is put on IR, they're going to have to sign somebody to fill the roster spot. I kind of have looked at the list of free agents, and no one pops out to me as like,
Let's
yeah.
talk about the list.
Okay.
DeMarco Murray, probably the best back. He's retired.
Pass.
Right? Alfred Morris, Orleans Darkwa, Adrian Peterson, and Jamal Charles. Now, let's just end the AP discussion right now, because I know I've seen a lot. We got a lot of comments on Twitter. Let's sign Adrian Peterson. The man is 33.
I mean, he's done, isn't he?
33 years old. He averaged 3.4 yards per carry 2017, and he was traded. Do you really want to bring that in as our franchise back?
No, I have no interest in Adrian Peterson. Almo, I loved Almo, but he's kind of done.
Well, okay.
Darkwa, I have zero interest in.
Orleans Darkwa, I think, is. Let me get back to Darkwa. Almo averaged 4.8 yards per carry last year in replacement for who's the help me the Dallas guy,
the Cowboys, whatever.
Yeah. But see, that was kind of a renaissance. Here's his yards per carry for the past 3 years: 2014, 4.1; 2015, 3.7; 2016, 3.5. Running backs don't usually have a career resurgence late in their career. So I tend to think that was probably just an exception to the rule because it was the Cowboys' offensive line. So as much as we love the idea of Almo, because everybody loves Almo, I'm not sure that's really where we want to go.
And I don't know how much, one of the reasons they let him go was a scheme fit issue. So
yeah, right. He's a stretch run. He's a stretch run game,
and that's not really what we need. Now,
no, we need power.
The two guys who I think would fit, and I know Alex, you disagree with me on one, but Orleans Darkwa is one, and then Jamal Charles is the other. Jamal Charles is a little older; he's 31, but he was averaging 4.3 yards a carry as a backup in Denver last year. Only had 69 carries, but still did fairly well. And he does not have a significant history of a drop off. He may work for a year. I've liked Orleans Darkwa. The Giants' running game sucked. Okay, but he was last year. But he was the best of the bunch. Averaged almost 4.5 yards per carry behind a mess of an offensive line and a mess of an offense. I think he could come in and do well. He's a power guy, but he has some speed. So I think if they're going to sign somebody, to me, it would probably be Darkwa first and then Charles second.
First of all, let me say this. I think that the Redskins, a lot of people are this loss of Guice is going to hurt. I mean,
yeah, no question.
If Rob Kelly, people are trying to convince themselves that Rob Kelly, Samaje Perine, if the Redskins felt that they could do the job, then they wouldn't have drafted Darius Guice in the second round.
Of course.
I personally have seen as much of Rob Kelly as I'd like to see. Great story, probably nice guy. He is not the guy. Personally, I think that Capri Bibbs is the best pure runner they have on the roster.
Capri Bibbs.
I like Bibbs a lot. I also am a big fan of Marshall. The play he made on that catch from McCoy, the little move he made to just keep on to get into the end zone there.
Yeah.
I like that. I think he's a very fluid runner, and probably more so than a lot of guys are.
I like I like Bibbs. As you said, Rich. Mm-hmm. I think he has a decent all around game. I haven't seen enough of him, truth be told, to know if he could carry the load. That's the problem. Right?
I think we need to see a lot of these guys to
now in
really.
Terms of Rob Kelly,
because I feel that way about
Byron Marshall.
A lot, not. Yeah, I feel that way about Marshall, but I feel that way about Samaje Perine. Yeah. I need to see more of him to see if he can get more playing time.
I've seen enough of Samaje Perine. I feel the way about Perine that Rich does about Rob Kelly.
Really though?
Yes. I don't hate the guy. I think that his ceiling is fairly low. That's the thing about.
Well, if you ask me, I think P. Ryan did better this preseason game one than Kelly.
I think fans are. I really don't understand why fans are so hard on Samaje P. Ryan.
I don't like his rookie. I don't like his.
I absolutely understand why.
I don't like his vision. I don't think he has burst. I don't think he's a very smart runner, and he fumbles.
He was a rookie. That's true. Now he was a rookie last year, so we praise Rob Kelly, where Rob Kelly cuts back into coverage. Samaje Perine, he was a rookie last year. I'm willing to give him one last shot. I'm not saying that he's an all pro. I'm just saying I don't understand why everybody gives Rob Kelly a pass and Samaje Perine is garbage.
I think Rob has better physical traits. That's the thing. Now, but the overall point you made is exactly right, though. It's that they drafted Guice for a reason. None of these guys are the answer.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be – we're not going to magically morph into a top 10 running game with any of these guys here. That's why I brought up the point,
I think,
do we want to sign a big-time free agent? Big-time, quote-unquote, meaning the best of what's
here's
left.
the problem. The guys we're talking about aren't big-time. They're stopgaps at best.
Serviceable is the word.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe serviceable.
But you could get
I don't trust
Charles.
any running back over 30 to be even serviceable
anymore. You could get
anymore.
Darkwa or Charles on a one-year deal at this point.
Yeah, and it probably is worth doing at least for preseason, and just say, hey, somebody beat him out.
But one thing I think we can all agree on, and I hope you out there listening can agree, please exit stage left with the Adrian Peterson, please. That is not what we need on this team. He's too old. He's just done. He's washed up. He's a Hall of Famer. God bless him. I hope his kid still isn't getting beaten with a belt. But he is done. We don't need him to be anything on this team. We don't need to get older.
No, I mean, I understand it's just a one-year stopgap situation, but you don't do that with running backs. You're better off finding some kid who just got out of college and is undrafted and seeing if he can do it.
The real question, because they could also sign some undrafted free agent running back type just to fill the slot and roll with one of, like you guys said, Bibbs, Kelly, or Perine, whoever the coaches pick. So what we have seen, the rumors we've seen online in the past day or so, we haven't heard anything, is that the Redskins will probably roll with who they have. But which I also don't want them to panic and do something stupid, like bring in who was the guy they traded for in the Gibbs era.
Oh yeah,
Dockett.
I remember. Dockett or Duckett, TJ Duckett.
Yeah, thank you.
Not Dockett.
That was dumb, and we don't need to do something dumb
Very
like that.
dumb.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Well, there's a kid. Let's not forget. I mean, not saying that he's gonna, but you saying an undrafted.
Yeah.
The Redskins do have Martez Carter, the running back out of Grambling. So I mean, he's deep.
And he's got good speed, but that's about it.
Yeah, he's deep. He's deep on the depth chart, but
I think I probably know more about Martez Carter than anyone else in Redskins media at this point. And I think Martez is not the guy who's going to be an every down back. Even if you project him out to his maximum projection, I think that he's probably a third down back. And I think his speed is deceptive because if you watch his film, the guys he was running away from were teams that Grambling was playing. They just don't have the physical traits. I think Martez has potential, and I like him in certain respects, but I don't think that he is the answer.
Well, okay, so let's be honest. It's not about who can be a feature back, because I think the feature back just went out the window.
It's done.
It's about who can split carries with Chris Thompson. I'm going to say Perine gets in because of his draft status still. And so then it comes down to, basically three guys.
Well, they could keep four.
Is it?
They could keep four.
We could, but I think they're going to keep the fullback. I think that they've been using this fullback a lot this year in camp.
Did you see that in camp?
We saw something from him.
Did you see it in camp when you were there, Alex?
Oh, yeah. A ton. And I think he played well this first game. He had, 2 catches?
Yeah, he played well. I thought he had the holding call on the Guice play. But
also go look at that. That's barely holding.
So, do you guys, little known fact, I don't know if you guys know this, did you know that Capri Bibbs has a Super Bowl ring?
I didn't know that. Oh, my God. Who does he have a Super Bowl ring from?
Denver Broncos.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right. He was on IR.
Yeah. So he's got some bling. He's got a chip.
I think what we will see over the next 2 weeks is a competition. I think probably if you read between the tea leaves right now, like it or not, because I know Rich doesn't, but I think Kelly is probably ahead just based on what he got the first carry of the game last week. And he seems to be kind of in the lead in training camp. So I think the coaches probably like him best. And he was listed as a starter on the unofficial depth chart that was released last week. So I think
But it's going to be one of the three, right? Kelly, Bibbs, Marshall?
Yeah.
We just need to figure out who.
Well, you left P right now.
Don't play.
You left P right now.
Yeah.
Kelly, Bibbs, Marshall.
Well, no. I'm assuming P. Ryan gets in as the third back.
I'm talking about okay. I was talking about who's going to be the starter, but
no, I don't think there is a starter. The starter is Chris Thompson. That's who the starter really is.
Maybe we could trade for Matt Jones.
I have a half-eaten bag of Doritos in my cupboard. You can have that.
I don't know. Andy Reid's no longer coaching in Philly, so the food trade might not work.
No disrespect, but that was a Scott McCloughan bust pick. So
not a great pick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's not waste.
So
more
let's
time
move on to the rest of what we saw during the preseason game. All right. Final score was 26-17, but, and this is a big but, the Redskins scored 17 unanswered points, playing almost entirely their backups versus almost entirely the Patriots starting roster, minus Tom Brady. Brady and Gronk were the only two guys out on offense for the Pats, out of their starting lineup. The defense was something like that too, where maybe one or two guys were sitting for injury
for a while, for about a quarter, yeah.
And Colt McCoy and Maurice Harris and a couple of unknowns kind of dominated the Patriots there.
I think what you saw was the what's the word? Was the rise of Mo Harris more than anything. We know who Colt McCoy is. Some of you out there don't like Colt, but what you're ignoring is that Colt is from a backup standpoint, Colt is perfect for this team. He knows
he's steady Eddie.
Yeah,
is what he
he's
is.
Smart. He knows the offense. He's going to execute it well. It just he doesn't have the arm. That's Colt's problem, and that's what we saw. We saw Colt in short passing West Coast offense. And it worked. But I think
dinking, dunking, rolling out, making a couple plays with his feet.
But I think more than anything, we saw Mo Harris rise to become the number one receiver. Yeah.
I mean, Mo Harris is. Mo Harris is no slouch. I mean, in his limited opportunities, we've seen some good things. I mean, he had that one-handed acrobatic catch last year against the Vikings, I think it was, and then he had he had that play with Kirk Cousins. He had that out route that Kirk Cousins blamed him because he slipped.
Yeah.
But
in his limited opportunities, I think Mo Harris is a lock, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. But he's been weirdly disrespected by the franchise. I think he's shown more ability. He spent a lot of time on the practice squad, and I think his ability is better than practice squad ability. And I think
I think he's fourth receiver level talent right now. I without question, maybe even getting to third receiver.
He's a perfect backup for Josh Doxson, is what I think.
He is. Is he about the same size?
No, I think.
Offhand?
Yeah, no.
I think
Mo
he's a little
Harris is smaller
smaller
than you might think. Mo Harris is 6'3". So yeah, he is.
Well, no, I've stood next to him. I know he's taller than me.
Yeah, okay.
So.
And you're about 6 foot. I think he's listed at 6.
Yeah.
He's approximately the size of Josh Doxson.
Right. He's thinner is why it looks different. I think
that's a good point.
But his hands are huge. He's got a huge mitts, so he can catch anything.
But look, I mean, we'd be remiss in not bringing up Cam Sims right now.
Yeah. Oh, he had a beautiful one big play there, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a great play. But Cam has had a good training camp. We've heard good things about Cam. The downside to Cam is that he doesn't have speed. He's a classic, he's a classic X receiver, not a Z receiver, I think. Cam came out of Alabama, which had Jalen Hurts as a quarterback last year, and Jalen can't pass. Jalen's a terrible passing quarterback.
No.
Yeah, he can't throw the ball. So I think I think Cam is another guy who's going to benefit greatly from having Alex Smith around. But I think Cam, if anything, it's very early. It's only week 1. But I think Cam has put himself in the discussion for a roster spot. At a very least,
definitely. And you can't teach 6'5", as they know. and he's huge.
And there was some talk about I was listening to Brian Mitchell talk on 980 about how there's been some talk about him, Cam Sims putting on maybe 15, 20 pounds and being developed as a tight end.
Interesting. I don't know if I love that because I think we're okay at tight end right now, but I also understand a 6'5" guy can be a decent. Yeah.
Look, we need. We talked about the running game. Until I see a blocking tight end, we're not good at tight end.
Okay, well, turning a wide receiver into a tight end does not give you a blocking tight end.
Well, I think Jeremy Sprinkle is the guy who's going to become that.
I liked Niles Paul. He couldn't ever block.
No.
And he had, 7 years with the team to try and develop as a blocking tight end?
You're talking about Paulson? Yeah.
Yeah, Niles Paul.
Niles Paul's a 6-foot receiver turned into an H-back, basically.
Right.
That's different.
Speaking of Logan Paul, I would love to have Logan Paulson right about now because he was the last really good blocking tight end we had.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Cam Sims, to answer the question that Rich raised, I'd like to see him stick as a wide receiver for now. I don't want to transition him quite yet. I get the fact that he's really big, but I thought he showed enough to be a potential X receiver.
Sure.
Right now.
And I've heard a lot of people talking about him, and you got to remember he played at Alabama, so he's been well coached. You can just assume that.
Well, and as long as receivers, the other thing is Rob Davis was sort of the number 2 receiver. The other night against the Patriots. And he didn't do anything spectacular, He had
a couple of nice crossing routes.
He had a couple of nice crossing routes. So we need to see more from him. The question to me, and Rich raised this just on chat here right now, the real question is, why didn't the starters play? Why didn't we get any burn from the starters? And I realized that Trent Williams wasn't going to play anyway, but I was very surprised to see that Alex Smith didn't get any time at all.
Yeah, at least a first series. I was surprised by that too. I think that the coaching staff played it conservative because Williams was out. They didn't want to risk Alex Smith's health right off the bat. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I guess that's it. But I think
I don't agree with that mentality. But I think that's probably what it was.
Coach scared, yes, you have to be cautious with the franchise quarterback. Absolutely, 100%. But at the same time, there's a significant number of people out there who think Darius Guice shouldn't have been playing this week. They're blaming the medical staff, for this. You cannot play scared. You can't win in the NFL if you play scared. You've got these people, especially rookie running backs, have got to play. And yes, I know the Patriots didn't play Sonny Michaels, but
Sonny Michel.
Sonny Michel, but they're not looking for him to be a franchise back. That's not what the Patriots do.
No, the Patriots don't use a franchise back.
You gotta play football.
You can't.
This is a classic. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you play them, if something happens, they shouldn't have played. You blame the medical staff. You blame Dan Snyder. You blame everybody. If they didn't play, it's too soft. They didn't play much in the preseason. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have to play football. Now, I do give them a bit of a pass because they have the Jets, and they'll probably have more meaningful reps this week with the organized, with the Jets. So, I get it, but there has to be. But I also agree with you guys. There has to be this mentality of we got to get ready. We were 7-9. Nobody gets like a pass. These guys got to play.
Yeah, and who would have anticipated?
You can't just hit the switch.
Nobody would have anticipated that.
Maybe Trent Williams can.
Nobody could have anticipated that the running back was going to go down with an ACL and carry 7.
Right.
You can't plan for that.
Right.
No. Yeah, that it is bad luck. It's the decade that we've had of just this kind of bad luck for this team.
Well, I put a tweet out this week
when it comes to
this,
injuries,
and it made the round. It was very popular because if you think about it, our 2016 first-round draft pick Josh Jackson missed an entire year, and he's had these weird nicks and stuff, injuries, last year. Jonathan Allen missed 10 games. He was, with an injury in his rookie year. Deron Payne is hurt. Let's be hopeful, but Deron Payne is missing at least all of training camp, and now Guice is out. We've had that's our 4 top picks in the past 3 years that have all had major injuries. That's
but here's the thing, though. But here's the thing, though. At the same time, this team still went 7-9 with 21 players on IR. So while Guice hurts, to me, it's all, in my opinion, the defense will dictate the success of this season. And for right now, the defense is relatively healthy.
You know who I was really impressed with in the Patriots game was Greg Stroman. I didn't really expect him. I expected him to be a decent punt returner, and we saw some, at least one good punt return out of him. But I really didn't expect him to provide such good coverage in the passing game.
Yeah, he was playing tight. When I was watching replays of highlights, a lot of those early misses that the Patriots had on, in the passing game were going towards Stroman, where he was just covering his guy too tight.
Cordarrelle Patterson was out there, for the Patriots. Mm-hmm. I thought of all those guys, the new guys, I thought Stroman impressed me probably the most. And Danny Johnson was another guy who played well. I didn't expect to see Danny Johnson out there really at all. To me,
I don't think any of us did. I think most fans didn't even know he existed.
Yeah, I mean,
and they know now.
Well, I think that I think Josh Holsey's in trouble, to be honest with you.
Maybe.
You can't make the club and look, hey, it was one game. Danny Johnson, Greg Stroman. The thing is, it's hard to say. You try to stash guys on the practice squad, but corners are at a premium. It's going to be tough. I mean, again, it's one game. It's going to be tough on Holsey because he can't get in the game. But I was very impressed with Stroman. I heard he had a slow start to camp, but he was feisty. He had tight coverage and he had some swag. So both of those guys are, showed well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the fans like Stroman because he's a Virginia Tech guy. But that aside, I think he really made a name for himself, and I think he really helped him against the Patriots. We'll see. It was only one game. And Tom Terrific was not playing. I realize that.
Right.
But nonetheless, he helped him.
I mean, the nice thing is Hoyer isn't like a totally, he's not like one of these backups who doesn't belong in the NFL. That they were going against a guy who's started a lot of games.
Yeah, you're
so
talking about Brian Hoyer.
You get a good,
right.
Yeah. Right.
Real quick, let's do the other injuries since we had forgotten to talk about them.
Sure.
Beyond Guice, Manessa Garner out for the year. Torn ACL. Trey Quinn went down. We haven't heard much about his injury except he may be out a couple weeks. That's all we've heard. Tyler Catalina went down. Haven't heard anything about that. Matt Ioannidis was the guy I thought we were going to see out for the year. He looked like he tore his ACL,
looked bad.
But
he's fine.
Well, he's
out for a couple weeks.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
okay. I didn't know it was a couple weeks. Okay.
In context, that's much better than 16 weeks. So there's that. And so that was injuries. One of my points in the game preview was stay healthy. Well, that didn't happen. We had a significant number of injuries, and it's only week one.
I mean, we always say stay healthy. No one ever stays healthy. We know that.
Not on the Redskins. The Patriots stayed healthy. They didn't have a single injury that I saw. Okay, let's talk about Kevin Hogan. Now, Alex Drunk tweeted that the Kevin Hogan experience was over.
Right.
I think that's very unfair. No, he didn't look good. Kevin Hogan looked like to me was a young third string quarterback. And surprised that he's a young third string quarterback. We saw his weak arm. He floated passes. It didn't look like he had great field vision. He didn't.
No, his pocket awareness was bad.
But he was also getting a ton of pass rush there by the Patriots. I don't think we throw in the towel on the Kevin Hogan experience. I think he's a third-string quarterback. He needs to get some experience. He needs to get better. If we're starting Kevin Hogan, the season's over. Okay?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that was Kevin Hogan.
He's garbage. He's garbage.
Rich wants nothing. Rich wants no part of it. I'm trying to be positive here, man. Come on.
No, Hogan is.
No, listen. I wanted to give him a shot. I mean, obviously, you got to keep him through preseason because you need a third quarterback. But let's draft somebody in the third round next year because we need a young quarterback, and he's not going to be it.
You guys have lost your minds after throwing away a quarterback after playing 2 quarters.
And I was really rooting for him because I wanted to be able to say Hogan's Heroes, something a little, something like that. But he's not working with me. Work with me, Kevin. Work with me.
Hey, Kevin Hogan, stay in Richmond because they're probably going to get an Arena Football League team next year. So you can go play there.
You guys are rough. I think it's too early to throw in the towel on Kevin Hogan, okay? I mean, he hasn't played much. Give him a chance. We're not looking for him to start. All we're looking for...
I'm going to give him all preseason. He can be on the practice squad for all I care.
Kevin Hogan experience is over. You concluded that in the middle of one game.
Yes.
Isn't that a bit premature?
No, because I saw Nate Sudfeld for about that long, and I realized he was no good, too.
Except, now, what have we heard about Nate Sudfeld coming out of Eagles camp?
Yeah, well, you know what? I've heard that coming out of Redskins camp 2 years, too, and he still sucked.
Let me say this, though. I think that people, they talked about this on the radio, too, that, like, Fred Smoot is funny because he was talking about how Colt McCoy is going to be like Todd Collins. He's going to be 39 years old. And then,
he will, yeah.
Colt McCoy, people say that, he's not a starter. If you guys look at last season and the quarterbacks that started for teams, I think that Colt McCoy is a fringe starter. I don't think he's the best starter. I mean, of course not. But I think Colt McCoy could win you some games. Is he great? No. Is he really good? Probably not. But I think Colt McCoy could win some games in the NFL as a starting quarterback.
I've said this about the NFL for a while now, and the current state of quarterbacking in the NFL, you're always going to have your elite guys. But other than that, you probably have 20 solid starters now, which is relatively high for NFL standards. Guys 20 through like 35 are all in that fringe category, and McCoy's one of those. Where, if you had a team and were desperate enough, you could easily say he can start a season. I don't think he'll win you a Super Bowl, but I mean, he's no different than maybe Tyrod Taylor. I don't ever see Tyrod Taylor leading a team to a championship, but Colt McCoy's the same way.
Right. Yes.
I like Colt McCoy. A lot of people out there, hope the Redskins will just get rid of him and dump him, but I think he's a perfect backup quarterback.
They just signed him to a 1-year extension, didn't they? So that's not going to happen.
No. I think he's a perfect backup for the Redskins.
I think he's a fine backup. The idea that we have two quarterbacks over 30 and, Kevin Hogan right now is the young prospect.
I mean, how much has Colt really played? Colts doesn't have a beat-up body. Okay?
Preseasons, yeah.
He played 1 year, really, with the Browns. He doesn't have a beat-up body. I'm not too worried about him right now. Again, he'll win us some games.
It's not about that. It's about longevity. Like, you're not going to plan on him starting after Alex Smith retires in 3 seasons, 4 seasons,
Kevin
whatever
Hogan
it is.
For.
Yeah, well, you're going to sit around with him for 4 years?
Look, Kevin Hogan's...
He'll be 30 by then, too.
Kevin Hogan's career ceiling is probably backup.
Right.
He's not going to be the starter after Alex. They don't have Alex Smith's replacement. Nobody thinks that.
No.
No. I just think you guys are way premature with Hogan. I mean, he could get better. Give him a shot. There's no reason not to.
But do you? I mean, and the thing is, like, I try not to get into the glue. I mean, you don't miss what you never had. I mean, yes, Guice was going to be the man. He was going to be the bell cow. But now, I mean, everybody in the NFL is still 0-0. So we just got to pick up and move on. Our season last season we didn't go 7-9 because we didn't have Darius Guice, or we didn't have a premier running back. In my opinion, that's not why we went 7-9.
Oh, really? In my opinion, I think
if we'd had a franchise back. Yeah. And a running back who could consistently get 4.5 yards a carry, I think Jay Gruden's play calling would have been dramatically different. I think Jay has come around on the running game to a certain extent. Yes, he's a passing guy, but I think Jay made every effort to establish a running game last year, and we just sucked at it. That was the problem. And I think if we had a guy like a franchise guy, I think you would have seen a dramatically different Redskins offense last year, and I think it would have won us a couple more games.
I'm with Steve. I think that franchise back puts us somewhere in the 9 to 11 win category. So, lastly, personnel-wise in this game, should we talk Tim Settle real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a feeling I'm going to be the contrarian, so go ahead first.
I was I said it in training camp. I was impressed with what Settle was doing. Personally, my feeling is I want to see him stay upright longer when he's blocking. I feel like he's a disruptive force, and he could be one of these nose tackles who's dragging down running backs every other play if he just works on his lower body, staying upright. He'll get to that back a lot more often. But I'm pretty happy with what I saw.
Go ahead, Rich. I know you're going to say something opposite what I'm about to say, so go ahead.
I mean, the kid did. I mean, first of all, he played more snaps on. Poor Tim Settle. He's a big fat guy. He played more snaps on Thursday than he's going to play all season, in my opinion, in one game.
Yes.
You only play who's in front of you. I mean, yeah, he's probably had a little flaws and some flaws in his game, and I like what you said, Alex. But I mean, he was noticeable. He was, against 3s and 4s, he was dominant against 3s and 4s.
Yeah,
sure.
Look, first of all, Tim Settle looks to be twice as big as everybody else on the field. He is a big fat guy. There's no doubt. Did anybody see anybody stop New England running backs in the second half of that game?
No.
Right. They
Of course
ran
not.
all over the Redskins. Tim Settle's the guy right in the middle. Yes, he played. I liked what he showed to a certain extent. I think maybe people are a little bit premature in anointing him a starter. I wasn't that. I wasn't. Well, there's people out there listening right now who think Tim Settle showed enough to be a starter, and I don't know if we saw that from him. And he got really worn down in that game. He looked really, really tired by the end of that game.
Well, he was the guy who was stuck in there for two 19-yard
They didn't sub at
drives.
all.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
In a regular game, there would be guys. I mean, he played consistently every single. He played like every snap in the second half.
I'm not trying to pee on, in Tim Settle's Cheerios. I'm just saying that I like him. I'm not sure he's ready to be the starting nose tackle just yet.
No, I don't think. I agree.
I don't think starter. I think you're going to see a lot of him as a sub package guy.
Yeah,
though.
that I agree with. I think you're going to see him as a sub package.
NT2.
I think Ziggy Hood's going to be the starter in the middle.
No. I just no. Deron Payne.
It's going to be Payne.
I'm sorry.
Payne's going to be in the middle.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, you're assuming Payne's going to be back. I guess what I'm saying is I think Ziggy Hood is the next man up behind Payne. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, see, I don't see that. I don't think Hood makes
Tom
it.
Sula said it himself that Ziggy Hood is not a nose.
No.
He's a DN. So I think it's Payne. I think it's Settle, and then
I think Settle is going to be the third guy. I think they're going to move Ziggy Hood inside. When Payne is out.
I held out hope until and then he has like no shot to make the roster. I held out hope that Phil Taylor would make this roster because
he's a beast. He looks like a
he's
mountain.
a beast.
He's a walking mountain.
He's a beast. And if with the way Settle showed, I don't think he's going to make this roster just from a numbers standpoint.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a numbers game. It's a problem. They've got a lot of defensive linemen now, and I think what we're going to see is quality defensive linemen cut. There's just no way around it. They have enough guys now where they're going to have to let good players go, and Phil Taylor may be one of those. But I don't know. In terms of Settle, I'm just not convinced yet that he's going to be. He may be the future. I said it, when we in our defensive line, position group breakdown. He may be the future at nose, but I'm not sure he's there yet. And I'm not sure that.
But you can see the raw talent is there.
Yes, you can see the raw talent. I just think that he may be the third guy in this year for a while.
And he's only 20 years old.
Yeah, there is that. He's a young guy. All right, so unless you guys have anything else on this game, let's talk about next week. And what are you guys going to be looking for versus the Jeets?
Oh, well, before we'd be remiss in not acknowledging that Sean Dion Hamilton was a monster out there. By the way, he led all the
Okay.
He led the team in tackles, 10 tackles. He was everywhere. That was the guy who.
Yeah,
really
but
showed.
a lot of those tackles were him cleaning up on
I
those
realize that,
run plays.
But I wasn't expecting that out of Sean Dion Hamilton. I think he was the guy who helped himself too. But in terms of the Jets, number one, let's hope the starters play. That'd be nice.
Oh, I think they will. I think you're going to see Smith and a lot more starters.
On offense, I mean, nothing's changed from what I thought last week. Let's hope the offense looks like a competent NFL offense first and foremost.
I thought that we did in the first half. I thought that we did in the first half.
Well, it was all backups.
Well,
not one starter was playing. I'm talking about our starters, like our ones against the Jets ones. Let's hope that the starting offense looks like they've gelled a little bit and can matriculate the ball down the field.
I want to see Alex Smith run this thing as nicely as we just saw Colt McCoy run it.
So, but here's the thing: you talked about Cam Sims, Sean Dion Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, no Alabama player will ever last on the practice squad if you guys are thinking that any one of those guys will be on the practice squad. No Alabama player will be stuck on anybody's practice squad.
No, I think you might have a point there. In terms of what I'm looking for the Jets, aside from the starters, I want to see, I want to see some continued success from some of these young guys who stood out, like Stroman. We need to see Williams get on the field and show something. And really, it's the guard situation. We need to see that resolved. Because I wasn't watching it in this game, but we need to find out who our starting left guard can be.
Well, considering Sean Laval has an ankle injury,
right? That's what I mean. We need to see somebody step up.
Yeah, it's an open question, and there's not one with an easy answer. And I think
it's not Jaron Christian.
No, Jaron Christian, I think we can clearly say it's not a. It's Jaron, by the way. The Redskins sent their pronunciation guide out. It's to us the other week. It's Jaron. But anyway, no, I think we can safely say, based on everything we've seen and the experts, that we've heard from, Jaron Christian is a tackle and not a guard, no matter what.
And he needs a year to develop.
Yeah,
or two.
Yeah.
Let's
hope he doesn't have to play.
It looks like Morgan Moses' situation, where Moses was very raw his first year, and then he kind of developed into a starter.
So I'm looking to see if the guys that flashed Thursday can do it again. I'm looking at the Greg Stromans. I'm looking at the Danny Johnsons. I'm actually also looking at the running back situation. Who can carry that load? I'm looking at Byron Marshall. And I'm looking at P. Ryan. So I'm looking at if the guys that flashed, can they do it again? I'm not worried about the starters, but I'm looking at those.
I am worried about the starters. I mean, I want to see them play, and I think defensively, this defensive line that has had a good training camp, they need to do it in a game. I want to see at least a full quarter, maybe 2 full quarters out of this defensive line. And guess what? The Jets all of a sudden have a pretty good run game. They've got Isaiah Kroll as their starter, who was the entire Browns offense last year. Bilal Powell isn't a bad running back, and Thomas Rawls is their third stringer. And Rawls had talent in Seattle. So I want to see them do well again in stopping the Jets' run game. That's number one. And then number two, what's interesting about the Jets is, Sam Darnold is one of the quarterbacks. Sam, if nothing else, it'll be interesting to see him play because he was so highly drafted. I'm not too worried about Josh McCown. Teddy Bridgewater showed well Friday night in their game.
He'll be a curious one to watch this season. His comeback story.
Yeah, right. So it's an interesting team. Spencer Long is the starting center there. Former Redskin. Terrell Pryor is on the team, and there was a bunch of beef between Pryor and I forget who on the Redskins.
Brown.
Zach Brown. Okay. I don't know what's going on there. If there's some sort of bad feelings between Pryor and Brown or Pryor and the team.
Well, the story I heard, and I heard this a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember where I read it now, but was that during camp last year, guys like Brown and Josh Norman were told to kind of be soft on Pryor in practices. Don't touch him. Let him make the catches to kind of, I guess, build his confidence. Yeah. And so now their mentality in this practice session, the joint practices, is going to be to rough them up.
Let's hope that we don't see a big fight like we saw against the Texans.
I'm okay if we do.
As long as somebody doesn't get hurt.
No one get hurt, but I think, every once in a while fighting can bring a team together.
Think, was it Ernest Biner? Who was it that told us this team needs some dogs? It was Rick. It was Doc Walker. It was Doc, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, it was Doc.
Last time we had Doc on, who is just one of our favorite guests of all time. Mm-hmm. Doc said this team needs some dogs, and he's absolutely right on defense. They need some mean guys. I don't know if we have that guy yet who's just the guy on defense who's willing to rough some people up, who's willing to get nasty, who's willing to hit some people
the hockey equivalent of an enforcer.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Allen could be that guy.
We'll see.
I think he could be that guy. I mean, I think that DJ Swearinger,
he's definitely one of them.
Could be one of one
DJ
of those guys.
Probably is the closest mentality wise.
Yeah, I mean, you need. You're right. You need somebody that's got a screw loose. You need like a Dexter Manley type, type of guy. Just raw meat. Go get the quarterback. Yeah, every now and then he's going to take a 15-yard. Roughing the passer or personal foul penalty.
I don't know if Josh is that guy, because when I heard Josh Allen speak been around him.
Josh Allen is the quarterback for the Bills.
John Allen. He strikes me as more as like the guy who's eventually going to be the captain of this defense, the team leader. I don't think you can necessarily be that and be the enforcer.
That may be true. Can I tell a real quick Dexter Manley story? This is diverting. When I was a kid, my dad got to know one of the big-time Redskins starters, who you guys know. I won't say the name because he hadn't been on the show yet. We'll think about it. But we were at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, waiting on that player after the game. Let me tell you something. Dexter Manley came out of the locker room in a full-length leather trench coat with eyes completely bloodshot and just bugging out of his head. I have never seen a larger, more frightening human being than Dexter Manley was that day. When I was a little kid, and I was in awe because it was Dexter Manley, but I think when Rich said you had to have a screw loose, Dexter Manley was the poster child of having a screw loose, and I can attest to even live right in front of me, it wasn't an act. He still had a screw loose, but he was a very intimidating individual, especially for a little kid. And I do think, I don't know if we have that. I mean, DJ maybe, but DJ is also a captain. He can't go too nuts. They need to find somebody who's got a little crazy in them.
Yeah. And I don't think that guy's shown up yet, or we just don't know who it is. If he's here, he hasn't revealed himself. Yeah,
we need like a Richie Incognito minus the racism and awful person part of it.
Right, right. Well, unfortunately, having a screw loose and being an awful person tend to coincide a lot.
I prefer not to have a guy who's a racist, like Incognito.
Oh, yeah. That's a different thing altogether. But I'm just saying, how many people with the screw loose are, not awful people?
Dexter wasn't an awful person.
All things considered, and you guys probably did this on another show, how many games did you guys have the rest?
We haven't done it yet. We're going to do it probably. Okay. We're probably going to do it after the third game would be the third.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's usually our traditional. Okay. We do it right around then.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah. Why? Do you want to give yours now since you're on the show and you're probably not going to be on that?
I think the Redskins will win at the very least. I think they'll win 9 games.
Wow.
Okay.
I think they'll win 9 games. I think the floor is 9, the ceiling is 11.
Wow, Rich the optimist. My goodness.
I keep telling you. I'm telling you guys this. They had 21 players on injured reserve last year, and they won 7 games. And let me say this: the defensive line is going to be the story. When they played the Oakland Raiders, this team looked like, it was dominant. It all comes down to defense. Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, and they add Daron Payne. The defensive line will dictate the success or the failure of the Redskins' 2018 season.
Hot take from Rich Rogers. I don't disagree with you. And I think people forget that the defensive line was noticeably better in the first 4, 5, 6 games, especially when Allen was in there, than they were at the end of the year. Everybody remembers that they were ranked, last in some categories in rushing defense last year, but you got to go back to the first few games. And the Raiders game, was probably the high watermark last year. So the defensive line is going to be noticeably improved, barring any more injuries.
I think it's going to come down to that, and also keeping one or two playmakers healthy on offense. I mean,
anybody, please, somebody.
Yeah, if you really think about it, the last 4 or 5 games, we had lost Reed, Chris Thompson was out. We didn't have anybody left who could be like that big play breakaway guy at that point. As much as I like Crowder just doesn't do that. He's a move the chains type of player. Yeah. So we need to keep one or two guys healthy who can do that kind of thing.
Find who that guy is. More importantly, who is the playmaker? I'm not sure they have it. Guice was the playmaker to me. Mm-hmm. Now he's gone. I'm not sure we have a playmaker on.
Well, like
Chris Thompson.
If Thompson and Reed are healthy, they're playmakers.
I think Chris Thompson was exposed a little bit last year, and I don't mean that. I don't really mean that in as negative way as I said. But I think what Chris Thompson's highest and best use is as a third down back. I think Chris Thompson is the modern day reincarnation of Brian Mitchell. I think that is what Chris Thompson is. And when Brian was most effective, was when they brought him in key situations. Brian was not as effective in the times when he had to, and the very few times when he was asked to sort of carry the load. And I don't even remember him doing that more than a blue moon. But Chris Thompson was not nearly as effective before his injury when he all of a sudden had to do everything. I think you got to find somebody else to come in and sort of be the man and let Chris be sort of the gadget guy, if you will.
And teams started keying on him a lot, so that doesn't help.
Right. So let me ask you. So say it. So with that, and this is a huge if. Jordan Reed completely changes the complexion of this offense.
Of course.
If Jordan Reed is healthy, this team. I mean, again, you can't match Chris Thompson, Jordan Reed. Those, to me, are the two keys on offense.
I did a study, if you guys have read it out there, it's still on our website, of Jordan Reed last offseason. And it's, I think it was, so what's the deal with Jordan Reed really series? I think there's no doubt in my mind that Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end in the league. He may be the best tight end in the history of the league, statistically. But right behind Gronk, if you look at Gronk's numbers, unbelievable. He is unbelievable, the numbers he has. But my point with this is right behind Gronk, a step down, but right behind Gronk, Travis Kelce and Jordan Reed. The only reason Jordan is not the clear-cut number 2 is because of his health. What really sticks out in Jordan's numbers, his catch percentage is crazy. He's got one of the highest catch percentages in the history of the NFL for a tight end or receiver. There's some running backs that have got just crazy high catch percentages, like 90%. But in trucking passing tight ends, or receiving tight ends and receivers, his catch percentage is one of the highest we've ever seen in league history. And I know some of you out there laughed at me when I put that out there, but the numbers are what they are. The kid can really play. It just with Jordan, as we said a million times, it's his health.
Right.
But Jordan.
And
so
that's
my point
the
is,
story with every player on this team these days.
But Jordan in particular. But Rich is absolutely right. Jordan is the guy who is the talent. He is the playmaker.
Right. He changes the whole passing game. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
It didn't sound like Rich agreed with me with my Gronk statement, by the way.
Well, no, we won't get into that because, you've got Kellen Winslow, you've got Tony Gonzalez. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of but I get your point. He's really, really, really good.
Right. Okay, so Steve, you mentioned our buddy Doc Walker a little bit ago. Yeah. I think it kind of leads into this next story, which is that it looks like there's a bloodbath that's about to happen at ESPN 980. Some of it has happened, it sounds like. I think Kevin Sheehan and Scott Jackson have both announced that they're no longer at 980. It sounds like Cooley might lose his daytime show. Doc might lose his show or not be on the air, but they're still going to be doing the broadcast of the games.
Yeah.
And Smoot and Chick Hernandez are filling in a lot for guys, but nothing's been made official. Rick, you're a sports radio guy,
Yes.
like me. You listen to 980, whereas I'm more of a 106.7 guy. I
I
think.
actually got on the radio. I called in 3 times this week on Smoot and the Chick show. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, what do you think about what's going on there? I mean, it's annoying to me as a radiophile that they aren't just saying, "Here's our plan."
Right.
They may not have a plan.
Well, they have a plan, but most places will just admit it.
Yeah. True.
Well, it's interesting. I made a joke. Urban One bought 980, and Urban One is Kathy Hughes. I don't know if you guys, if people,
And
Kathy
African American.
Hughes, she's
generally
like,
speaking,
on the Mount Rushmore
broadcast.
of African American
Yeah.
radio. So I made a joke that it's going to be Steve Harvey and Chris Cooley in the morning on the radio. But
Right.
no, I 100% agree with you, Alex. I think the fact of not knowing is problematic, but also people got to understand the business side of it. Whenever you have when people buy out businesses, and Steve, you can speak to this.
Yeah.
When people buy out businesses, people make changes. And it's unfortunate. I'm not as broken up. I like Kevin Sheehan, but I think that he was an absolute shield for Kirk Cousins, which in my opinion hurt his integrity as being objective. But I liked him. I think Fred Smoot, and I think we've got something with Smoot. I mean, Smoot he's a character. He's a funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
There's Fred Smoot is a guy you either love or hate him. He's a radio personality. I don't know who he would best pair with, but I like Smoot. I'm a miss Doc. I love Doc.
Yeah, if Doc really has lost his show, I think that's a big mistake on their part.
And Doc, if you're
that's the one
listening, we can provide you with a platform. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We can't pay
I
you.
love Doc.
We can't pay you a
Yeah.
dime, but if you want a
love
platform,
Doc.
we're here.
Luckily, he'll still be doing the game day stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Look,
you
have to wonder, first of all, why Dan Snyder sold the team. Or that sold 980.
Oh, whoa,
It's
man.
good-
Well, I
still
was
called the
trying. I
team.
almost said the team 980 is
man,
what I was.
Man, you had people dancing in the streets if you say that, man.
No. But remember, he named 980 the team
Yeah,
right
right.
before he sold
Yeah,
it.
yeah, right. That was what I was saying. I just said it badly. But
Yeah.
Judging from what Alex told me off the air about the ratings on 980, which apparently were in the tank, my guess is that he's not selling it at a high watermark. He's probably selling it to stop losing money. And if that's the case, then it's not like Urban One was taking over a titan in the radio industry. They're taking a business that was probably losing money, or at least their profitability.
Yeah, I don't know if
their
they
net
were
was
losing
down.
money. I just
well,
know
we don't
they
know that
were
or not, but certainly their profits are down. If the ratings are down, their profits are down. And so what
Right.
Urban One is trying to do is make more money, which is totally understandable and the correct and right thing to do. And so to do that, they have to limit expenses. 980 had a bunch of people making a lot of money, because they've been there a long time and they were big names.
Sure.
And so they're going to get rid of that, and they're going to bring in less expensive people and shake the lineup up. And I can't blame him. What I blame him for is not just, like you said, Alex, let's just say it. What's the plan?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in ripping the Band-Aid off, and I say that they should do this. I also know that the radio industry is famous for stabbing talent in the back and not telling them when they're going to format flip. If you guys remember when HFS flipped, they didn't let anybody know. They didn't give a single notice out until the day after they went Spanish music. And literally, guys were driving into work, supposedly, turning on their own radio station and hearing Spanish music.
HFS is what station, Alex?
Well, HFS was the iconic alternative rock
I know,
station.
but what was the number? I can't remember. I remember the station.
Was it 99.1 WHFS? It's been 15 years now.
I remember them from my time in D.C.
Yeah, but they were, an icon in the city. They had the HF Festival.
Let's hope. I want to, for our part, I think Scott Jackson, who's was on the show once, is a host, and he can probably land somewhere else, pretty easily. He's really good at it. I remember having him on the show was almost a mistake because he made us all look really bad. When
He's
he's
very good.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Scott's good. Doc's good. I've always enjoyed Chris Cooley's work. I don't think he's actually a good fit for what they were ever doing at 980. I think he should have gone to the other station, 106.7, because he's more of a goofball, and that they go that direction
I think
more.
where I was going with this, and I think Cooley and Doc fit in the same category, is they're X's and O's guys, really at heart. They know football, and I think it's going to be harder for them to move out of the area and take some other state. Like Scott could move almost anywhere and do what he does here, right?
Right.
But Doc and Chris are Redskins people, and Brian too.
Yeah, they're tied to the team. I get
they're
that.
tied to the team, and so they're going to have to land somewhere else in the area. Like Brian is on CSN, TV, but Doc and Cooley aren't. So we'll have to see what happens.
But Cooley could go national, right? So
Cooley doesn't want to go national, I don't think, though.
Right?
Cooley
No,
wants
I don't
to
think
be
he
a
will.
Redskin.
He said many times he could have and didn't because of
Right.
He made a personal choice.
He's got kids, he's got small kids and things like that. But I mean, you look at guys like Zabin, and the question is who's going to end up over at 106. Like I'm not a huge. The only show that I like over there is Grant and Danny. I think they are the best in the area, in my opinion. But who's going to end up with the Junkies, or like Andy Poland, who's going to end up with some some show?
Yeah, because Poland and Livero, after they left 980, went over to 106.7 for weekend gigs.
Yeah,
It would be a real shame if Doc and Cooley didn't end up somewhere on the air in the DC area. Somehow.
Yeah, well, and I think it's going to be complicated if they're still doing broadcasts and they truly are out.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, let's remember that Doc is still on the Redskins broadcast team. So
Right.
you see him there, the regular season broadcast team. So
Yeah, as is Chris.
So can I want to say that now. I'm a guest, so I might say
Go
something
for it.
a little.
You're part of the family, Rich. That's okay.
Okay. Please, I want your listeners to know, I love Sonny Jurgensen. But
Sure.
Come on, Sonny. Come
time.
on, Sonny. It's time.
Yeah.
Time. I mean,
Well, have they
is
announced that this
any
is his
other
last year? I feel like they've said that this is going to be his
I
last
thought
year.
it was. No, I thought last year was going to be his last year.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just wondering, is there any other local broadcast team across the country that has a Sonny Jurgensen?
Well, look, let's just
No.
be honest and say Sonny is a bit senile now,
Well-
and he doesn't. What is he? 80? I'm not blaming him.
Something like that.
I don't think he contributes much to the broadcast anymore because he doesn't have the mental acuity to sort of stay with it in the moment. You can tell when Larry and Chris will flip to him to get him to say something, and a lot of times what he responds with is completely something totally different.
I don't know what they're doing right now. That kind of thing.
We
yeah.
love Sonny.
That's my terrible Sonny Jurgensen impression.
Sonny's a Redskin legend and an icon in the DC area, and I would like to see Sonny retire and live out his days in happy retirement.
Well, we saw this with Sam, too, if we're going to go there. Sam Huff probably lasted 3 years longer than he should have.
and Sonny's at that
on that
point
project.
now, too.
Yeah. And, even though they were roughly the same age, I know Sam took a lot of harder hits playing, so maybe that had something to do with it.
It was getting to the point where Sonny and Sam as a team were unable to effectively broadcast the game.
Yeah. And, I loved them for the 80s and the 90s. They that's always going to have a special place in any Redskins fan's memory, that broadcast trio of Sonny, Sam, and Frank. But, yeah, it's time to change the guard. They need to find somebody to kind of... And I don't know if they'll stick with a two-man booth for very long, but I think they need to find someone on defense.
Portis may be the next man up. I mean, he's on the preseason
That would be
team.
rough.
Look, Clinton's gotten better, though. Clinton was terrible his first year.
He had nowhere else to go but up.
I know, but I mean, he's gotten better. He's a much better sideline person now than he used to be. I think.
Well, if it ends up just being what, Larry, Cooley, and Doc Walker, what do you think? Is that
No, Clint Portis is terrible.
Yeah,
He's terrible.
I agree with you that Portis is terrible.
I'm just saying he's gotten better, and they've kept him on. They've kept him on the preseason broadcast team for a reason. They've
kept Joe Theismann on there too.
He got better. Joe Theismann has some great teeth, though.
Yeah, well,
Great teeth.
the best money to buy.
You see Joe Theismann, and it's like his teeth. You see his teeth first before anything else.
I mean,
Well-
so
The story of how he lost his teeth is kind of famous. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, would it be nice to have a defensive guy on there? Sure. I mean, I don't think I always wondered why Darryl Green didn't do it, but he's clearly not interested. It's been too long.
And he's at George Mason now on the coaching or not coaching the NCAA, administrative staff or something.
But here's the thing, though. Like it looks, let's look at some guys who've done it who actually haven't been that great. Like Ken Harvey did it, and he wasn't that great. Charles Mann did it, and he wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Jeff Bostic actually did it. I actually like Jeff
Bostic was pretty good. Yeah,
he was pretty good. Yeah. So it looks easy. I mean, that would be like a dream job for me, like a nice little side hustle or whatever. But it's not as easy probably as it looks.
Well, every athlete thinks they can get into broadcasting. It's not easy.
Well, and when we started this show, 300 shows ago, or however many it's been now, we were pretty terrible, and it took a long time for us to be actually pretty good at this.
Well, you were. I mean,
Alex was always good. Yeah, okay.
But you know what, guys? It's interesting you say that. I might have to do some digging because there was an article about looking at the actual numbers of NFL players that retired NFL players that actually try out for these jobs. I mean, it is staggering. I mean, like we look at the guys we see the guys that made it, but we don't see the number of guys that actually tried out.
Rich, I think I may have mentioned this on IJB on It's Just Business, which is our other show that you guys should listen to. I think I mentioned this, but the NFL has a training program. An off-season broadcast training program for these guys, and you're absolutely right. I think the numbers are small. It's not everybody who can get up and talk for a living and just.
babble. Santana Moss was pretty good, and he's got his own podcast now. I understand, but that's kind of it.
You know who the next guy actually is? In all seriousness, D'Angelo Hall. D'Angelo Hall is very well spoken. And I wouldn't wholly surprise me if he ended up on NFL Network. Maybe he may be too big for us in terms of that, but I think D Hall would be the perfect guy. He's smart, he's well spoken, he sounds good when he's doing. On the times I've seen him on broadcast, I think he would be perfect. If they're looking for someone to replace Sonny, I'd go D Hall.
I think I've said that before too. That I think he'd be a good fit there, but it sounds like he also might want to become a front office guy. So
yeah.
And it's also who wants to do it.
It's also it's a little early. I mean, he just retired 2 weeks ago, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to squeeze every drop out of my guest appearance.
Go for it.
So I am going to stick up for Larry Michael. And a lot of people don't like Larry Michael.
Boo.
No, I'm going to tell you.
I like Larry.
He works for the team. Larry Michael's not going to come out and rip his employer. People are, Larry Michael, he's a shield for the team. He works for the team. I mean, that's what he's supposed to.
That's the problem.
That's what if they gave you that job,
right?
I mean, okay, what would you do differently than what Larry Michael's doing?
Well, for starters, I wouldn't have fired Frank Herzog and given myself the job.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know all that.
That's the first thing I would have done differently.
Okay.
You got to understand, Rich. We've been over this on this show. The reason why Alex doesn't like Larry Michael begins and ends with Frank Herzog.
Right.
Okay. And I understand that, but I'm kind of on Rich's side on Larry Michael. I mean, he's supposed to be positive. Yes, he's sort of the Baghdad Bob of the Redskins, a little bit. When the walls are burning down and the bombs are falling, he's going to say everything's okay. I mean, that's Larry. He's a bit over the top with it. But yes, he's supposed to be positive. I'm not 100% sure he's the right Hall of Fame voter. I question that a little bit. I'm not sure if he has the credibility that, like some of these guys like, Rich McClain and John McClain in Houston would have, for example.
Right.
But that's another issue. I mean, I don't have a problem with Larry in the broadcast booth on game day. I think he does fine.
I just don't think – I think if your name is listed under the Redskins management, you probably shouldn't be on the broadcast to begin with. There should be a little separation there.
Because he's like senior vice president of communications or something like that.
Right, right. He actually has a job with the team, and he does the broadcast, and that just seems weird to me.
Right. So, anyway, I'm more on Rich's side than Alex's side on that.
Yeah. Well, so the media, it's I enjoy listening to, I think Smoot's got a career. I mean, the thing is.
See, I think Smoot and Chick is a good combo. Yeah,
I do, and I think the issue with Smoot is what can he do outside of football. That's the thing. Like, what can he talk about outside? He is hilarious. I mean, if people are really, I listen to radio to be entertained, and I listen as often as I can, I listen to Smoot because he's just funny. He's just a funny guy. He just reminds me of like some of my buddies, from college that I talk to. So maybe they've got something there.
I think so. And, I think they are trying to gear it that way to being more entertaining like 106.7 has been doing for 5-6 years and kicking their asses. But we are way over time. So, guys, I think we need to wrap this show up.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the day? Keep them really brief.
I just want to thank you guys for having me on. I'm an undrafted free agent. I'm just trying to work myself up the depth chart on the Hawks side. I mean, I don't know if there are any other roster spots, but maybe you guys can keep me on the practice squad.
Hey, you're a starter on IJB, though, man.
Right.
Alex is a bench player on IJB.
That's true.
My last, my final thoughts. Guys, Guice is gone. You got to move on. Let's hope that somebody steps up and takes his place.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
All you can do is look forward.
Yep.
And I look forward to talking to our fans next week on another episode as we break down the Jets game. And I just want to say, keep following us on social media. Rich, what's your Twitter handle?
I'm at DiscoQ5, DISCOQUE5.
We got to get you a better Twitter handle.
And let me just ask this one. This is a yes or no question on the way out. Does Jay Gruden have to make the playoffs to keep his job?
No.
Yes.
No.
There you have it. All right. We'll catch you guys on social media. Remember to follow us at The Hogsty. Follow us on Facebook. Check out our blog and our comment section. Buy T-shirts. Go click on ads on our website so we can actually get some money and it's not just burning a hole out of seed in my pocket every year. Other than that, hope you all have a good week. Take care of yourself.
And I think I need to change my answer to no, by the way.
Oh, ride with your answer, man. All right. Have a great one, guys.